Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox recording here, critiquing subscriber mixes, episode 21. So before we begin, I just want to let you know that if you're looking to improve the sound of your mixes with the gear that you already have, so much of the sound of your resulting productions and mixes comes down to just understanding basic compression and EQ moves. And because of this, I'm offering you direct access right now for absolutely free to my crisp and clear heavy mix formula. The heavy mix formula is comprised of three main things: an EQ and compression cheat sheet with clickable links to private tutorials for all of the main instruments within a heavy production, as well as multi-track downloads that accompany each of the individual tutorials so you can mix along with me. Again, you can have direct access to the crisp and clear heavy mix formula for absolutely free. There's a link below in this video's description. So with that out of the way, let's dive in and listen to some subscriber mixes. And up first, we have a mix from Scruffle Monster. Let's check it out. Okay, well, Mr. Monster, I dig what I'm hearing. I like the vibe of what I'm hearing. I just hear what sounds like to my ears some performance issues. It sounds like some of the riffs are not in sync with the drums. And also, it almost sounds like your guitars are not panned outwards enough. So to be honest with you, I wouldn't really critique this mix because I would say the actual performance and the production has to be nailed first. So what I want you to do is, when you record your next song, or if you want to go back in and edit this one, make sure that your guitars are grooving with your drums and that the actual arrangement and performance is nailed down. And then give that a shot, mix that, send it to me, and I'd love to hear your future productions. Thank you for your submission, and hopefully that helps. Okay, our next mix here comes from Jonathan. Okay, well, Jonathan, your production sounds killer, super powerful, super clear. The performances sound really, really solid as well. Vocals sound great. My only note here is that your mix is very, very limited and very compressed. I shouldn't say compressed, it's just very clipped and it's really hanging out close to zero. I gotta say this, it actually doesn't sound compressed, at least in the way of bus compression, which is awesome. It sounds nice and open, but I do hear some subtle clipping. Now, this could be intentional. Maybe you're using a saturator that you're driving to the point of distortion, or maybe it's subtle digital clipping, because I do see it redlining and it is actually exceeding zero within my DAW. Again, some people like this kind of sound. I prefer to keep my masters sitting below zero with usually a ceiling of -0.1. But this is ultimately a taste thing. Again, that's the only thing I could come up with, is maybe back down your limiting, maybe set a lower ceiling and not go for so much loudness, especially considering that now we're dealing with streaming services. But other than that, man, I think your production is killer. You clearly sound talented. Your music sounds awesome. And keep me posted on your future productions. And thank you for your submission. All right, our next production here and mix comes from Mr. Joe. Okay, well, Joe, the positives. Riffs sound cool. I also really dig the guitar tone. It has that cool kind of like mid-rangey, lower mid-heavy kind of guitar tone that really just, it reminds me of old school thrash, which I really dig. Two things, very similar to the first mix that I reviewed in this episode. I noticed a lot of flaming going on with the guitar performances. That really comes down to a performance thing or an editing thing. Now, you do not have to make your guitars completely tight, especially if you're going for a more old school sound, but some of those guitars in the intro were really flammy, and it makes the mix sound messy sometimes when it's actually not a mix issue. Also, for some reason, your guitars sound like they're way in the middle of the mix. So if you doubled your guitars, just do not be scared to hard pan them. Most metal producers hard pan their rhythm guitars. People seem to be nervous of doing this for some reason. There's no reason. Take your rhythm guitars, one on the left, one on the right, and hard pan them. Because right now it sounds almost like your drums are out on the sides and your guitars are sort of in the middle, and you want to kind of widen that stereo field. Give it a shot, apply it to your next production, send it to me, and I'd love to hear your future work. Thanks for your submission. All right, now we have a mix here from the band Reddick on Reverb Nation. I'll leave a link below to their music in this video's description. Let's see what we got.
Upside down, but the choice is mine.
Okay, well guys, I love what I'm hearing here. Killer tune, really just brutal riffage. The vibe is powerful, the production sounds powerful. Just a few things that stand out to me right away. The one thing is the low end on the guitars sound out of control, and they're muffling with the kick drums, or they're conflicting with the kick drums. So when the palm mutes happen, I hear a lot of excess low frequency content, and I'm listening right now on very small speakers. So I can only imagine when listening on bigger speakers with a sub, you're gonna have an overabundance of low end information. So keep that in mind. You might want to use a multiband compressor and compress just the range that palm mutes tend to jump out at. So maybe between 80 Hertz and 250 Hertz, just to tame those palm mutes without squashing the guitars. And also the snare drum just sounds very, very pokey, like it's poking through the mix too much. Now, let me say this is just a personal preference. Some metal bands prefer a super loud and poppy snare that really is aggressive and pokes through the mix. I tend to find that a little distracting, so I like to, use a tape saturator on my snare drum or on my drum bus just to help tame that transient, much like with most classic albums. So you might want to clip your snare or use some form of limiter in a subtle way, or a tape saturator on your drum bus to limit your snare drum. And also it'll make your snare drum sound loud without it actually being loud. And right here, I can hear the snare is really poking through and actually is loud in your mix. So that's something to consider. But other than that, the performances sound awesome, really tight guitar playing, cool vocals. It's just a great production, a great tune overall. So thanks for your submission, and keep me posted on your future songs. All right, our final mix here comes from Carol. Okay, well, Carol, awesome tune, really cool songwriting, great guitar playing, overall just a great production in general. The only thing that stands out to me is, first of all, I want to say everything is nice and balanced. Nothing is poking through in a strange way, nothing is overpowering. Just overall, to my ears, I hear a little bit of a buildup in the upper lower mids. So I would say between the maybe 400 Hertz range to around 700 Hertz range. The buildup to me sounds like it's coming from the guitars mainly, and also the snare drum slightly. So in my opinion, try pulling out maybe a dB or two across your drum bus around that range, 400 to 700. And then also pull a little bit of that out in your rhythm guitars, and that's gonna leave a nice amount of space for your lead guitars to occupy that range, because I also hear a lot of that information on your lead guitars here. But again, if you cut that from your drums and your rhythms, it's gonna leave a nice subtle pocket for your leads to poke through. Really great tune, awesome production, and keep me posted on your music. I like what I'm hearing. So I would just like to shout out and thank everyone for submitting this excellent group of mixes. And again, if you're interested in submitting a mix to the channel, there's a link below with detailed instructions in this video's description. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things Metal Rock production. If you're interested in some Frightbox swag, we've got t-shirts, mugs, and other cool stuff on the way. There's a link below to the Frightbox merch store in this video's description. And again, if you're truly looking to improve the sound of your productions, learning how to EQ and compress properly, regardless of the plugins you're using, this goes for stock plugins as well, you could have instant access to my crisp and clear heavy mix formula. It comes with an EQ and compression mixing cheat sheet, private mixing tutorials for all of the main instruments within a heavy production, as well as multi-track downloads that accompany each of the individual tutorials so you can mix along with me. There's a link below to the heavy mix formula in this video's description. Until next time, happy mixing.